To give you an understanding of why projects such as Path to Integrity are essential, I'm going to talk about research integrity and why it is important. So let's start by answering the question, why ethics and integrity in research are important and relevant. The overview here shows several cases that raised public interest and some controversy in the media about research misconduct. Among them, we have the Penkowa case, which is about Milena Penkowa, who was a high-profile neuroscientist in Denmark. She resigned after facing allegations that she committed research misconduct and misspent grant money. Meanwhile, the administration at the University of Copenhagen, where she worked, was also accused of ignoring her alleged misdeeds for the better part of a decade. This is just one example of a case out of many cases which raise public concern about research integrity. The list you see here is not a complete list of misconduct cases. It's just a selection of prominent ones. And as you can see, research misconduct can occur in various forms, such as duplicate publication, falsification of results, and of course, plagiarism. So what does that mean? It means that trust in science may diminish whenever research misconduct occurs and draws public attention. In response to this risk and to safeguard the reliability and trustworthiness of research, the European Commission put more emphasis on the importance of research integrity as a key to achieve research excellence and socioeconomic relevance. Research integrity was defined as a political priority, and several policies to enhance and foster research integrity were initiated. We're now going to watch a video recorded at the World Conference on Research Integrity in Hong Kong in 2019, where experts were asked to explain the concept of research integrity.
Do not forget why we are doing research in the first place. We are here to ask the question. We are here to devise a series of methods and approaches and study and investigation in order to find out the truth. We are trying to understand and generate knowledge. Do not forget that. If you remember what research is for, then the rest of it is about doing it well and doing it in a trustworthy way.
I always worked in research, and when I was a researcher, ethics and integrity was around me. So in a sense, while I never studied ethics and research integrity, I practiced it, like most researchers do.
Research operates in a complex system. It's an interrelationship between funders, researchers, institutions, rules, policies, etc. And we need to understand where we fit in that.
I think for me, they're initiatives that really speak to opening up research. So making the research process more transparent, more accountable. And again, publishers have a role to play there by really supporting and listening to communities and supporting that open research.
Some of the predecessors, the more established researchers have set up these various assessment, incentive system as well as research culture. We are part of it. We are in it. Whether you're old or young, you are in it. If you know what you're going for, stick to it. If you stick to it, the rest will follow. Be true to the nature of research itself.
If they follow the principles of good ethics and research integrity, the research becomes better. It's not only a tick box approach. Yes, I've done that. Yes, I got ethics approval. Yes, I have a data management plan. No, all these activities are not a red tape mechanism. It's a mechanism that makes the research more socially relevant.
Open research is really about opening up research, so it makes it more open, more transparent, more accountable, and with that comes greater reproducibility. So people look to it as a little bit like the future of research, but really it's the here and now. And if we do that here and now, we are really speaking towards greater integrity. And I think everybody has a role to play in that.
It's also important to give trainings, to do prevention, to give advice to people. And that's mainly what we are focusing on, like prevention, raising awareness, training, but also doing the investigations on research misconduct.
We've put together a new programme which enables us to look in the assessment process not only at research excellence in relation to the training, but also in relation to the cultural context. So our international panel is specifically looking at these two factors side by side. And having excellence in science will not be sufficient. It's necessary, but it will not be sufficient.
We can support the sharing of data. We can develop open data policies. People are interested in opening up the peer review process, making it more transparent, and of course recognising researchers when they have done great things and signposting that open research through putting badges on articles.
Because the topic is very exciting, it's socially relevant, and you can do a lot to help young researchers or researchers, and you can help promote the research endeavor in a time where everybody's fighting for funds, the distribution is not easy, and research is sometimes under attack from, let's say, fake news.
Even in places where the scientific training is excellent, there are still some challenges around the cultural aspects. And those relate to things like how do individuals get into PhD programs, how do their careers develop subsequently, so how are those transitions supported? Varying qualities and experiences of being trained and experiencing themselves good research or lack of good research practices, thinking about mental health of students, and thinking about more generally how the whole experience of a student evolves to better reflect the way that science, research and careers are evolving.
What we say in Horizon is that there is no excellence without ethics and research integrity. And we really mean it. And the member states also said the same thing in the 2015 Council conclusions on research integrity. So it's not only the people that deal with science directly, like us as policy and funders and the researchers, but now the issue is becoming extremely visible and important at the policy level.
For a young researcher, obviously you are a beginner. You certainly do not feel that you are alone. In fact, if you are a beginner, in fact, you have even more opportunity to ask and to do things not necessarily in the right way, but this is where you are learning. But perhaps my message is also for those people who are not necessarily young, but maybe contributing to research or even in a more leadership position. You are not alone. The problems you face as an experienced researcher or even a leader, other people have faced the same thing. You have your community to help you and do things together with you. Yeah. So we walk together.
So what can we conclude from what the experts say when defining research integrity? First, even though many researchers are not directly involved in the field of ethics and integrity, they will still in one way or another practice it, or fail to do so. Therefore, all researchers have an important role in safeguarding research integrity by steadfastly adhering to responsible research practices. Second, research integrity is about ensuring that research is done in a trustworthy way. For example, by making research processes more transparent and thereby accountable. Third, there is no excellence without ethics and research integrity, as also prominently stated in the Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. Now I'm going to show you another video, recorded from the same conference as the last one, where the experts now were asked about their opinions on research integrity education.
You might ask for changes in certain kinds of knowledge, and the good news is that with various kinds of training you can see an improvement in knowledge, but for the most part it's not a lot, it's not very big. Similarly, many skills might be changed, and that isn't a lot. You might change attitudes, but again, if you can, it's not a lot. So it leaves somebody with the question of, well, what should we change if that doesn't sound very good? And the answer is, we want to change the culture.
And we also stimulate people to make their own choice and then discuss that with each other, not by defending their choice, but really by asking to the other, why do you choose something different? Or what do I don't see that's important for you?
I think the best thing we can do is not just tell people what the answers are, but really listen to what they're thinking, understanding where they are, and then helping perhaps together to learn more about whatever we're talking about.
So in that sense, you develop an awareness for various perspectives and also learn that dilemmas can have more than one solution and that you can learn from others what their solutions are.
All children start with a kind of curiosity, and part of learning, I would say, for science education is to not stomp out that curiosity, but you develop, you foster it, you cultivate it.
The learner is actually developing their own learning, thinking about these issues, reflecting, rather than having it handed to them.
We apply that also in the research integrity course, asking young researchers what their dilemmas are. Shall I go to my superior when I hear something from a colleague? Shall I follow the advice of the postdoc not to worry too much about methodological issues? And then we see that in a group they reflect on that and really they become more open to possible solutions and also more convinced of the importance of these issues.
Once you get to a higher level in science, it's a kind of technical notion that you have to develop, and that I think is what you do through mentorship. You learn them through the role models of other scientists that you work with, your colleagues, your advisors, and I think someone who takes that role seriously as an advisor, as a mentor, is someone who tries to pass along those values.
We tried through a role model campaign, and we are using these role models in the learning units too. So we display them and we discuss them. So why are these people researchers which we want to follow? And we are doing a lot of role play so that the students learn to argue for good research.
I think that the best science teachers are the ones who themselves exemplify these virtues. Scientists who are exemplary are curious. You'd want your science teacher to be curious as well. If they only talk about the science as opposed to exemplify what it means to feel like a scientist, they're not going to really convey it.
We might ask for changes in the incidence of research misconduct. There's been no evidence so far that anybody has done that successfully by training. And there's little reason actually to believe that we would directly do that.
We know very well how to assess content learning, but even that is difficult. To move to teaching about methods and practices is a higher level of knowledge, and I think we're only beginning to learn how to assess that. And this is an even more difficult area, how to teach about values. So I would say at this point we're only at the very beginnings of figuring out how to do that.
I think one of the biggest challenges is an institutional challenge to find the will and the resources to pursue education and training that reaches out to all sectors.
One EU project about making the platform, Embassy of Good Science, but another call came up about virtue ethics training of researchers. Actually, here the two projects come together because we will put a lot of information on the website, on the Embassy of Good Science. There they can take their own material, they can work with it. So we try to make it in such a way that people can use it in their own way, adapted to their situation.
So we do all know each other. That's the first step, and we are talking to each other and we are collaborating. One thing is we can learn from each other because we are all projects on teaching research integrity, but we do have slightly different perspectives and slightly different aims. What we should do in the future, and what we already started, is to collaborate on specific topics. For example, on how can we evaluate our teaching materials and teaching approaches.
We aim to develop a lot of trainings in Europe. We will have 300 trainings in Europe over the coming 2 years. So people who are interested can sign up for these trainings. And of course we hope that afterwards, these are train-the-trainer programs, so we will have 3,000 trainers trained. But if elements of our trainings can be integrated there, we can think it could be a way of bringing things broader.
I feel that every time I succeed in doing something useful in this training area, I'm having an impact not just on one person, but usually many people, many of whom will be doing research. So it's almost as if I've magnified the number of research projects I have an impact on by not just 1 or 5 or 10, but thousands.
So what can we conclude from these recommendations and viewpoints? First, education and training should aim to shape attitudes and behaviors. In this way, education and training can eventually contribute to fostering a culture of research integrity. Second, it is important to develop an awareness of the diversity of perspectives and thereby try to understand the variety and multifacetedness of dilemmas that researchers and students may find themselves in. By addressing the different challenges that can occur when conducting research, be they cultural, procedural, or otherwise, education can support learners in developing skills that enable them to competently navigate challenging situations. Third, researchers, as well as science educators, should stay open-minded and curious. They are advised to continue developing and refining their skills to foster and cultivate existing and new knowledge. I'm sure everyone participating in this training program shares this open and aspirational mindset. Before we move on to Part 2, I'd like to encourage you to explore the interactive slideshow, Research Integrity and Related Concepts, an overview. In this interactive slideshow, you will learn more about the fundamental concepts related to research integrity. Please take your time by going through the suggested references and relevant links, as it will give you a better understanding of relevant concepts. To access the quiz, you should open your camera app on your phone and place it in front of the QR code as if you want to take a picture. A link should appear, which you should be able to click onto to access the quiz. You can also type the link below the QR code to access the quiz directly. See you in the Part 2 video after you have completed the interactive slideshow.